Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's session together with product people. To ask questions and answer polls, please, I will ask you to scan here or go there to the slido.com code that is right there. My name is Alejandro. I will be hosting all of you today. And right before I start with the rest of the show, I would remind everybody that this session will be recorded, and if you don't feel like it, you can turn your camera off right now. Um, so yeah, for today's live stream, we will be going through a very interesting topic, toxic versus tough workplaces. And it's going to be presented by our very own Elisabetta Casagrande, our senior product management consultant here at Product People. A little bit of information about me, your host for today. My name is Alejandro. Again, I have 6+ years in product management and growth. I've been working for B2C companies my whole life, on the ride-hailing industry, on the pharmaceuticals industry, and on the hair care industry as well. And I have a background on business and data analytics. A little bit about the company, who we are, Product People. We serve interim product management, product leadership, and product ops services via 42 in-house employees. That is exactly how we make the money. And how we give back to the community is by creating free events and talks for one of Europe's largest PM communities with 30,000 plus members. Now we would like to break the ice, and we would like to get to know you. What type of workplace dynamic do you find more challenging? Please scan the QR code to go to our Slido, and you will see 4 different options: a toxic environment where negativity prevails, a tough workplace where high expectations and pressure exist, both present unique challenges, or neither. I thrive in any work environment, could be option D. I will give you all a few seconds, and then I will put the Slido answers for everybody here. Let's go here. Let's go. We have some answers already. That is very nice. Wow, it's straight at 50-50. Toxic environment where negativity prevails, and a tough workplace where high expectations and pressure exist. Yeah, from a personal experience, I think a place where I find it very challenging to me is a toxic environment where negativity prevails. I think it's very important to have a professional workplace in which we can prevail by being positive, all of us, still being professional. And it's, I think I would say, the challenging place where I would find myself not feeling completely open to excel professionally. At least that would be for myself. I don't know about you. And your answers, I hope they're still coming. And I will now go back to our presentation and actually leave it up to our very own Elisabetta. I will stop sharing right now.
Thank you.
And without further ado, Elisabetta, take us there.
Thanks, Ale. Hi, everyone. My name is Elisabetta, Betty for most people that know me. And I'm Product People Senior Management Consultant. I've been supporting about 10 companies since I joined Product People in different industries, healthcare, mobility, e-commerce, and finance, and had some experience also before joining Product People, from startups to big scale-ups, and also a couple of unicorns company. And I would like to talk with you today about the difference between toxic versus tough workplaces and how you can navigate the different challenging dynamics in both. So first, I think it's important to recognize toxic versus tough. Quick background story, how this presentation came to be. This was inspired by a real incident, actually, that led to the end of working relationship. Not only one incident, probably more than one. And I want to go beyond, though, the single incidents in this case, and I try to condense the learnings from these experiences. And I think my main message is a call to be more aware of how we communicate and interact in our professional lives. And that is not just about what we say, but also how and where we say it. So, toxic versus tough. I really like the analogy of the fire in this case. I like to cook pizza. I'm Italian by origin. And it happens sometimes that the baking paper would catch fire inside the oven. And this is a classical example where I wouldn't call the fire department, right? I'm just putting a bit of water, try to manage the situation. Of course, also not leaving it there to take its course. But this is the kind of analogy for me for tough workplaces. It's something that might be challenging and difficult. If you leave it going, could get out of hand, but you can still manage alone. Different is a toxic workplace where like the fire is so big that you cannot manage it by yourself. If you see a house on fire, for example, you wouldn't try to find a bucket of water, but you would try to call the fire department. And I think it's important to make this distinction because contrary to fire, the situation might not be so obvious when you are in a workplace. The line could be subtle, and you really need to recognize which are the situations that you can and should manage, and which are the situations instead that you better escape. And what are these situations? So when we're talking about situations that are fire department situation, this is aggressive or hostile behavior, sensitive or illegal topics being discussed, if your personal boundaries get crossed, and if you experience discriminatory behavior, either directed to yourself or towards someone else. Whereas situations that I believe you can manage is if there are unrealistic demands or deadlines, if the team you're working with is disengaged or slow or underperforming, if there is frustration and miscommunication between different parties, and if there are conflicting goals or expectations. So let's go a bit into the part of situations of a tough environment. So situations that you can manage. There are a few tools that you can implement. I will go through them quickly now and then give you some bit more concrete examples. I think it's still important to stress that even if these situations are manageable, it doesn't mean that they are not serious. So you still should manage them before they become a big problem. So the first tools that you have in your toolbox is to manage conflict. And here is really, really important that you try to put yourself in your counterparty shoes, on the person that you are having the conflict with. Very important to seek first to understand and then to be understood. This can be extremely difficult, especially if you think you are in the right and the other person is in the wrong. Just breathe and make this effort, because that's the key to try to have the other person listen to you. You first have to listen to them. So make an effort to empathize, understand where they come from, what might be affecting them, which is either work-related or personal, it doesn't matter. And also be aware of your emotions and how this might impact you. Sometimes, and I experienced that myself, when you are in a state of excitement, either positive or negative, you don't think really straight. And you don't. It's just, you can become aware that in those moments you don't think straight. It's my experience that in those moments I still don't think straight, but at least I know that that I do that. And so I have countermeasure to stop me. I just count to 10 before answering messages that make me feel angry. I use ChatGPT to check my answers. I try to implement measures to counteract the effect of my emotions. And another important point when you are in the conflict is to find a solution. Here, probably I'm talking with a lot of product managers that like to go into the problem space and dive into it. But in this case, forget everything you learned on product management. Focus on find a solution. Not forget everything you know about product management. Try to see again the reasons behind the counterparty wanting a certain thing, but also focus on the solution. And last but not least, use I statements. It's always important to remember that how you are being perceived from the other person. And even if you say something, you don't mean it in a bad way. If you use you statement, if you say this is or absolute statement, this is wrong, this is not correct, you will be perceived differently than if you use statement. For example, I don't find this correct, or I believe it could be different. They give immediately another tone to your sentences. Moving on to steering the conversation in another direction. Sometimes things just get out of hands. You notice that your emotions are taking over you, or the other person is being taken over by their emotions. Just remain calm. That's very difficult easy to say, difficult to do, but keep composure, remain focused on facts. And if you really feel that things are getting out of hand, sometimes it's just better to find an excuse to leave and start the conversation again at a later point. This especially it becomes quite easy nowadays with remote working. You don't have to physically leave the room. So remember that is always an option. Just find a swift way out and restart the conversation when everyone is feeling calmer. Another tools in your toolbox for managing a tough situation is to set clear boundaries. Direct, clear, and above all is important consistency. If you're inconsistent, you are sending a mixed message. So consistency is important. This doesn't mean that you have to become aggressive or inflexible. Assertive and consistent is enough. And remember, other people have their boundaries too. So as much as you want yours to be respected, you should first of all show respect for the boundaries that others have. Again, be aware of your state, emotional, mental, physical. Know your limits and try to not push beyond them because at that point you don't really know what's going to happen. If you're not sure about how to handle a situation, remember that there are people around you that you can ask support to. Your line manager, HR. There's a lot of people that can support you. You're not alone. And many people have been going through what you are being going through at the moment. And here, remember, we're still talking about situations that are difficult but manageable here. We don't want to confuse the two things. These are the situations that you still can and should manage. Let's go a bit more into the details, right? A few cases that are happening quite often. One is unrealistic demands or deadlines. This happens, I believe, quite often in the workplace. Maybe the first instinct is to just say, no, we can't do it, or to try to fight against it. That's not probably the best solution. But try to bring the counterparty that is asking you for these unrealistic demands or deadlines to realize what is feasible and what not. How can you do it? For example, displaying daily progress. So keep people informed on a regular basis, over-communicate, so that maybe the unrealistic demands come from a poor understanding of the work required to do something. So make that work visible. Maybe the unrealistic demands or deadlines come from something that is external, that you cannot influence. Make that also very visible. Being it in a chat, in an email, in discussion, over-communicate also here. What are the external dependencies? If there are delays for whatever reason, don't shy away and wait for them to become apparent and to happen, but communicate them as soon as possible. It's always better to under-promise and over-deliver than the other way around. So you might have people that are very upset when you say, oh, probably we're not going to deliver this in the next month, but in the next quarter, but you can still manage their being upset. You can still find some plan B, and in the best case scenario, you can even find solution to become faster. The other way around, if you arrive at the time of delivery and you're not delivering, you are messing up the work of a lot of other people, and then they would become angry, and they're right to be so, because basically you are creating a problem for them, for their delivery. So it's very, very important to address these issues openly, to mitigate the impact and to find a solution together. So try, as much as it's difficult, I know, until you really have to face the problem, try to face it as soon as possible, and don't shy away from the difficult conversations. Miscommunication leading to frustration. This is also something that I saw many times, people using the same words, but meaning different things. And at some point, it becomes apparent that they are not talking about the same things, and they're very frustrated that what they are saying is not understood. It's very, very important in this case to maintain a neutral tone in your communication, and also embrace visibility. So if you notice, if the miscommunication is between you and someone else, I think you already have what we mentioned before, the tools to try to clarify this, but sometimes you might experience this misalignment happening between two colleagues, for example, or maybe between your boss and someone else. What do you do in that case? That's a very difficult situation, right? Because you're a bit caught in the middle, but you cannot really act until getting entangled in it. So again, bringing visibility by, for example, posting decision and direction in a public space or sharing a common email can improve the situation. And also try to bring clarity, maybe bringing the people in the same room to discuss a topic, or simply highlighting the issues. One thing that I did a few times when I realized people in the room were not having the same opinion is that I would rephrase what I understood. And at that point, someone would come up and try to correct me. And that was kind of the trigger to have the room talk about the topic. So don't be shy to put yourself in the position to bring clarity, stating how you see things and letting other people correct you. And another topic is a disengage or slow team or stakeholders. I think this is something that maybe we have seen more of in the past years with the silent quitting wave. It's an insidious topic, because the first reaction is probably that, it's not a big problem. So yeah, it becomes a big problem after 3 months if you're not delivering, or if there is no communication between the team and things get lost. But in the first week or two, you don't really realize it. And this, I think, is the big risk of it. So raise the concern with the person involved as soon as you see this behavior. If you see someone is always disengaged, doesn't react, etc., try to talk with them. Maybe they're going through something personally and they would really appreciate that someone is noticing they're not feeling very well. Maybe there is something else. Maybe they don't want you to talk with them. In that case, I would recommend to escalate it, to make the boss aware you're not trying to undermine them, but it's a professional, it's a workplace. You still need to do your job. And if someone is disengaged or underperforming, it's not allowing you to complete your part. Proactively foster collaboration. So if you see there is, and this is especially true, I found in remote workplaces, if you see that there is low engagement, try to foster this engagement. You can do that asking direct questions or setting up some catch-ups. This all helps making people more engaged. And as I said at the beginning, don't ignore the situation. So keep asking. I know it's tiring, I know it's difficult, but don't give up just because there is low engagement from the other side, because at some point this might come and bite you back. So it's important that you solve these issues. Last but not least, conflicting goals or expectation. I think this is also something that you can find quite often, but sometimes can escalate to a level that is a bit difficult to manage. And I think here also, to ensure transparent communication and over-communicating, it's always a good strategy. Rephrasing and seek confirmation to make sure that you are all on the same page is also a valid tool to prove you and the person you're talking with understand each other without recurring to more aggressive way of talking, like, what are you meaning, for example, or why do you do that? So rephrasing is always a good way to express a question without, or to elicit an answer from the counterpart without asking a direct question that sometimes might be perceived as too aggressive. Proactively address and encourage discussion on any misalignment. So again, don't shy away from the conflict. And often it's better to talk about things in person. So some topics, when they're sensitive or where the emotions are running high, it's better to avoid written communication and to talk with people directly. This doesn't mean to leave the communication only on a in-person. It's always good to have a written follow-up, but first discuss in person and then write the follow-up. Cool, let's move now to the more toxic part. So as we mentioned, there are situations that are toxic and just cannot be managed, so better to escape them. What are these situations? A colleague or client become aggressive or hostile. Sensitive topics arises, personal boundaries are crossed, or you're subject to witness disrespectful or discriminatory behavior. How to handle aggressive or hostile behavior? This is very tough. I've been there a few times, someone that just gets very emotional and starts shouting at someone else. And the first reaction, I must admit, is either to protect yourself and start justifying, or to reply, right? There is the flight or fight instinct that kicks in, or to freeze and just don't say anything. I think freeze is the right call for the beginning. So try to not engage. But also you don't have to stay there and be subject to this behavior. So try to get out of it. You can politely state that you feel uncomfortable. For example, you can say, hey, I don't feel comfortable when the voice is raised. Maybe it's better we stop and we discuss this in another session. In my experience, already addressing it in this way is making everyone calm down. Otherwise, you have found a polite way to leave the conversation. Immediately inform your manager. So these are things that you shouldn't be handling alone. So your manager, HR, find someone that you trust and that can guide you on the next steps. Don't wait for this to get out of hands. It should never happen. So it's not that if it happens once, you're saying, oh, it just happened once. I will wait. Try to address it as soon as possible. And on the other side, don't start talking about it with everyone you find on your way. I completely understand that the first reaction would be calling your pal or talking with anyone that you encounter and say what these horrible things that happen to you, but you might make the problem bigger. So be careful and aware of what you're sharing. Find one person that is in a decision-making position that can help you, talk with them, but try not to gossip around. Sensitive topics arises. This is a very difficult one, especially because in the last years, many more topics are becoming sensitive. And the best course, in my opinion, is to just remove yourself from the conversation. Then you're sure that you wouldn't do anything wrong or say anything wrong. It's dangerous to play the ethical compacts in a work environment. And I know that this is going against our nature of trying to do good, but maybe you're wrong, or you react in an appropriate way, or you're saying something that you could regret in the future. I think I would like to distinguish this from kind of people that are making an active choice to share these topics in the company. And I think that is a respectable and a conscious decision. What I'm talking about here, if it's your caught off guard and you don't have a clear idea on the topic, or you haven't thought about before how you would react in this situation, it's better that you don't react following your instinct, but that you just leave the situation. Take time to reflect, consult with someone you trust, maybe your manager or HR, and then respond in another time when you feel it in an appropriate way, when you feel you have thought about it and you are not reacting on an impulse, but responding in a logical way. Another theme is if personal boundaries are crossed. Here, of course, we're not talking about anything illegal. We're talking about, I don't know, someone asking you to work over the weekend when your working time is Monday to Friday, or during the evening, very late, morning, very early, when you have to pick up your kids from the daycare, etc. If this is becoming very uncomfortable, or for example, asking you questions that you don't want to answer, like, are you married or what's your religion? Try to remove yourself from the situation also in this case. Of course, depending on how strong is the trespassing of your boundaries, you could inform your manager or HR that this made you feel uncomfortable. If the personal boundaries crossed is not so something so bad, maybe you can also assume that the person didn't mean to hurt you, but nonetheless, you don't have to give up. That's your personal boundaries and should defend it. Find a swift way out of the conversation. If you have a polite, professional statement ready, I find it comes in very handy. For example, thanks for the question. Maybe we can discuss this offline sometimes. Right now, I would like to talk about the topic that we scheduled. And then you don't have to lose much energy on it anymore. Disrespectful or discriminatory behavior. This is also quite an interesting topic, because obviously we all have in mind what overtly discriminatory behavior can be. And hopefully you haven't experienced so much of that in your workplace. But also microaggression is there. And this is much more difficult to see, to understand, but you still feel it. So remove yourself from the situation when you have the impression that someone is being discriminatory or offensive, either with you or with others, and talk with someone that you can trust, your manager or HR. Even if you're not sure if the behavior was really discriminatory or disrespectful, talk with your manager. Because what could happen is that you internalize it and maybe you start underperforming. And this is a real risk. Back years ago, I experienced something similar when I had a colleague that was like every time I was setting up a meeting with him, would show up a few minutes late or not showing up without informing me. I felt every time I was talking, it was kind of cutting me off, etc. So it wasn't really so clear, but I still felt it, and I didn't talk about it with anyone until a day I just couldn't handle it anymore. And it wasn't a good reaction on my side, because I had an instinctive reaction instead of responding to the person. And I was immediately on the wrong side of things. So be really careful of how this microaggression, doesn't matter if they're done on purpose or not. Be aware of how they are impacting you and try to find a measure to minimize their impact so that you're not pushed to react on a whim. And now we're talking about what if you are the bad one. So how to salvage the situation if you are the one who behaved in a toxic way. As much as we all would like to be the very good people always on the right side, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So we're all humans, and sometimes we all make mistakes. As I mentioned before, I also did this. I also sent a very snarky comment in a chat once, and this created a very bad reaction from a colleague that felt offended by it. So obviously, we're not talking about behavior like harassing a colleague on purpose or doing something criminal, but it can happen that sometimes you cross the line in a more subtle way, yet still damaging. So what did you do when you step on the landmine? Share the issue. As painful as it is, your manager needs to know this ASAP. So they prepare, can support you, can guide you, can try to minimize the damage. Apologize or figure out way you can do to minimize the negative impact. Even if you cannot change the past, I think it's really important to recognize what you did and to say you're sorry. Figure out extra things you can do to over-deliver and be helpful. It's not going to take away again what you did, but at least you're trying to make amends and to, I wouldn't say cover, but to do something to repair what happened. As much as it hurts, especially if you didn't mean any harm, you have to take responsibility for your mistake. There might be consequences. You need to accept that. But what is more important for me is the last point: learn and move on. It's okay, you will feel embarrassed for a while, but you can't change the past. So at some point, forgive yourself, take this as a learning opportunity and grow. And that was it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Elisabetta. It was a very interesting topic and always not the easiest to talk about, not only from the perspective of talking about from when it happens to us, but talking also about when we proactively or non-proactively do it ourselves, right? It's an interesting path to walk through and basically to accept what we did wrong and what we have to move on from afterwards. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, there's QA time. Thank you for listening, everybody. And we will be receiving all of your questions on Slido now. It's the exact same Slido code that you saw at the beginning, and you can also scan the QR code that it's appearing right now on your screens. And while I give you some time to prepare your questions, I will talk a little bit about product people, the use cases that we serve to companies, and actually it's when to engage us. We do interim and fractional product manager positions or product leadership positions as well. We do product coaching or consulting. This can also come into the realms of program management and product operations. And the last thing that we always do is, or can do as well for you, is product discovery for your company. Basically discovering the next impactful initiative or product, and run a low or no code pilot or MVP, discovering, ideating, aligning the team, and running the kickoff of the iteration. We have B2C and B2B clients. Here are a series of B2C clients, as well as a series of B2B clients. They are pretty interesting, all of them, and very big ones. And some stat from us is that we are 200 cross-functionals team supported, 70 plus clients from Series A startups to publicly listed companies. We have 42 product leaders and product managers. We are all in-house and full-time to ensure quality of service to our clients and a strong career development path for our team members. There's 62% of women in the team and 66% in leadership. This means that we have a strong bias to promote from within our team and attract more women than the tech industry average has, thanks to our skills before CVs hiring process. And these are the beautiful people that I work with at Product People. And by the way, we're hiring work hands-on to help our clients discover and deliver great products faster. Please, you can go into these QR codes to also subscribe to our newsletter. You can receive inspiring product stories and insights in your inbox as well. And I can now remind you that for our next live stream, we will be hearing on the topic for launch is not equals to scale with Ashish Sharma. He's a product manager at IBM. And this is also going to be a very interesting one. And I hope you can follow us for that one the next time. And thank you. I will now go and start reading your questions. All right, I see that we have plenty already. And what I will do now is go to this one to let everybody show us there. Like, keep asking your questions if you're not already on the and let me see, where did I leave it? All right, I can open this in another. Yes, perfect. Now, I can start with the very first one, how to handle toxic and manipulative behavior from C-level, which stands over the HR department, would be our very first question towards you, Betty.
Thanks for the question. I hope I could say, no, I wish I could say that I haven't experienced this, but I have. And it's very difficult indeed. Depending on how big the company is, sometimes you can just find your happy place shadowed by some level of leadership above you from this kind of behavior and still be able to create your own space and do a good job. If you're very close to it, it's something you can try the person to make the person aware of. I always assume good intentions. Sometimes people are being toxic not because they want to be toxic. I don't think anyone wants to be a toxic person, but some things in life brought them to act in a certain way. So I always assume good intention. I always try to talk with a person if I can, but this obviously depend on how many levels there are between you and the C level. So to wrap up, if there is enough levels between you and them, just find your happy place away. If you are in an area of influence, try to talk with them. If that also is not working, I mean, there's a lot of places in the world.
Understood. The second would be, what are the early warning signs that a workplace is becoming toxic?
That's a good question. I see where this question is coming from. But let's remember that the workplace is always done by people. So I think before a workplace becomes toxic, the people are becoming toxic. So, and you could see those signs before, and sometimes it's only a person. It's not a whole workplace. It's a person within a very healthy workplace that is behaving in a toxic way. And also there I would suggest let's just, if you can, and if you want, just try to address them directly in a nice way. If all people are behaving like that, sometimes they're just doing it in a passive way. So I also experienced entering a workplace that felt that felt toxic to some extent, but then started having a positive, showing up in a positive way, could inspire other people to follow. Also here, we're talking about a range, right? If we're talking about a place where some bad jokes are done versus a place that is overtly discriminatory, those are two very different things. And especially are not things that are going to change in one day. So you need a lot of patience, continue on your way, acting as you think is good, and hopefully it will get better.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. There's very good questions on the list. I will go to the next one. Preventive measures. What would be a preventive action that a product manager could take to cultivate supportive and a challenging workplace at the same time, deterring toxicity from taking root?
That's a very good one also. I think showing, so acting, how you say, walking the talk, acting as you in a good way is the first step. So be the change you want to see, right? Be the person that is positive, that avoid toxicity, and more people maybe will be inspired by the way you are acting. And also, if you see one person being toxic, do not let it go, right? So as we mentioned before, doesn't mean facing them directly, but seek support, seek the right way to respond to limit the damage that this person can do before it might hurt someone else or spread.
Got it. That's a great answer. And just the last one, for feedback mechanisms, what would you say is a good feedback mechanism that you believe is the most effective in identifying and mitigating toxic behaviors within the team or the organization?
I think, I don't know how many of you have read the book Radical Candor, but no? Okay. There is that basically this concept of giving honest feedback, but also caring for the person you're giving feedback to. So I think straight and honest feedback, really telling how things are, is important. You obviously need to make sure this is coming from your side, or from the person that is giving the feedback, from a place of wanting to do good for the other. An example, if I'm telling you you're too loud when you speak, it's annoying. I'm just hurting you. If I'm telling you, if you speak so loud, I might have the impression that you are attacking me, so I might react in a different way. So if you explain a person why a behavior they're having, it's not going well with you. From a place of wanting them to improve and to become better, then I think it's also easier for the other side to receive. Critical feedback is never easy to receive, but if you feel that the person that is giving you the feedback has your growth and your thriving at heart and doesn't want to hurt you, but on the contrary, want to see you become better and believes that you can become better, that's really important. I think you have better chances of mitigating this type of behavior. And for identifying it, I think, I mean, we mentioned, right, it's pretty obvious that the feedback also that other people, especially if you're talking about microaggression, etc., sometimes can be something that is the people that are perpetuating it are very unaware of. So receiving the feedback, 360 feedback, I think is always a very good way to understand how a person is perceived by the wider group and to see if it's a systemic issue.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I think we have, all right, I think we're getting two more questions. Maybe we have time for actually the last one. And how would you say you would handle a situation where somebody in upper management is undermining or not respecting your position or role in a meeting with another stakeholder? This sounds like a question that we had in the past, but it's a similar situation that I think would also require some intelligent thinking from from ourselves. So I think that would be a very good question.
It's a very good question. It's a very hard place to find yourself. I think the first reaction would probably be to try to confirm your role during the meeting, to fight back. And I don't believe that can be very successful. Well, I wouldn't say that you should just be passive in this situation. So continue being assertive, polite, and calm. Focus on facts. Usually those are things where people cannot really have a lot of opinions because they're facts. So focus on facts, be assertive. If you think you're not being heard, maybe try repeating yourself, not too much though, because then it could sound like you're repeating yourself too much. But I think the most important thing is that there is all something that's been happening before that meeting that brought you up to that point. So it's important that you work on that you work on building a relationship with the person before you are in the meeting. And this could be something like sharing what you have done, sharing what you're presenting in the meeting. Again, as we mentioned at the beginning, try to understand where they are coming from. Why are they acting in that way? Is it because they think you're incompetent or because they think you went over their head on something, because you are mining their territory? There might be a lot of reasons, but try to understand what those reasons are, what is the root cause of the person acting like this in the meeting, and to address them. Once you are in the meeting, I wouldn't make a scene. Just keep calm and continue saying your part, but try to understand what brought you there.
Thank you. That's a very interesting way to go and handle it, and it's very interesting to think about your answer and what I would do. Sometimes it's similar, sometimes it's not, but it's always nice to have this moment of sharing. Just a very nice last segue into our questions for the day. What is the role of leadership in preventing and addressing toxicity in the workplace? I think this is a great question because I think we can have an answer from the perspective of a senior product manager within a company.
Yeah, it shouldn't be tolerated. So I think the worst thing a leader can do is just to close an eye or both on this behavior, because they are becoming complice. I don't know the English word. They are becoming part of the problem. It's like they would be doing it themselves. So I think the most important thing for a leader is to address the issue immediately if they see it complicit. Thank you. To address the issue immediately if they see it arising, and not discount it as oh, it happened once. Address it with the person, talk with the person that behaved in a toxic way to understand if it was an issue, is a repeating issue, or if it was a case. I mean, also consider people make mistakes, right? So when I say address it, I don't mean create fear or terror. Oh my God, that's everything I'm saying can be used against me. Always in a compassionate way, and assuming the best intention also from the person that behave in a toxic way, but don't let it slide.
Perfect. That's a great answer. And that's a great statement to, I guess, finish up with today's live stream. Thank you again, everybody. I don't think we have received any more questions. Actually, no, I can confirm we haven't received any more questions. Therefore, I will kindly end this live stream here today. Again, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your questions. And without further ado, thank you again. Bye bye.